طويل. هذه الجلسة فرصة للتعرف على التحديات التي تواجه المناطق الحرة وعلى أفضل الممارسات والتجارب الناجحة في مجال المناطق الحرة وتبادل الخبرات والمعرفة بين المشاركين في الجلسة.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سعيد ان انا اكرر يعني سعادتي وامتناني لتواجدي مع حضراتكم النهارده، وان شاء الله في الجلسة الأخيرة هنتعرض لموضوع المناطق الحرة، فرصها وتحدياتها، ويمكن الحديث موصول بآخر سؤال طرح في السيشن السابق. بيحضرنا 3 متحدثين، اتنين منهم هيحضروا معانا عبر الزوم، ومتحدثة ثالثة هتكون حاضرها بشخصها إن شاء الله. اسمحوا لي لتقديم الزملاء أتحدث بالإنجليزية. So welcome everyone to this last session that will discuss free zones, challenges and opportunities. We have 3 distinguished speakers that I'm sure that you will all enjoy listening to and learning from. And let me just please point to our esteemed speakers. Please try to use your 15 minutes effectively. Wow. And we will take 5 minutes for Q&A just to honor the time schedule of our attendees. So without any delay, let me introduce our first speaker, Mr. Edward Rodis. I hope I spelled it correctly. He's a Spanish maritime economist, entrepreneur, and educator in the port logistics sector. He has a bachelor degree in economics and an MBA also. He served and worked in Spain and USA, and his area is electronic data interchange. Recently, in 2006, he established Scuola Europa, which is an intermodal transport firm providing specialized training in intermodal transportation. Edward advocates for sustainable and efficient transport practices, focusing on short sea shipping, railway, and intermodal transport. His presentation will be about trade facilitation and logistics in ports and free zones, and how simulation techniques and technologies can be used to optimize operations. This will also cover artificial intelligence and other tools and techniques. Edward, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the Arab Academy for the invitation to this international conference, and also to the Misrata Port Free Zones. It's an honor to be there. I hope sincerely to visit Libya very soon. I was eager and excited to be here today with you, but the current circumstances haven't not allowed it. So, but I still with the idea to go as soon as possible there. The idea of my conference is about, as you have already explained, simulation. We have developed in the COVID time a platform to simulate international trade operations, and in this digital world, we have a virtual port community with almost everything. We try to have everything. So we have 23 simulate companies. We have a digital community system. We have freight forwarders. We work with real-life contracts, and we have interactive operations and training models. So we have also an airline, and shipping line, a railway company. We have transport, road transport companies, distribution companies, freight forwarders, shipping agents, and we have also a logistics area. So this is why we started to analyze how to include. This is a huge work because we work with a lot of different elements, and we started to try to define which elements were supposed to be included in this to give a soul to this logistic area, and we start to analyze which were the main elements to be included. Let me say that one of the nice things of this conference is that I already took some new elements which will be very helpful to develop the concept of this logistic area. So from Mr. Peter Lange, we took some points which will be included in the future. Well, first thing of note, and I think that other lecturers have gone through that, is the network. This is clear. We work in our area with the main element, which is the one which structures all the region, which is the TEN-T, the Trans-European Transport Network, with the 9 corridors. And to analyze the situation in the Mediterranean, which is the main area where we work, the true thing is that we work always also with trying to identify the areas in North Africa. And in this case, and keeping in mind Misrata, to try to develop that, one main element is, of course, the Trans-African highways, which will, let's say, define also quite well where the investments to develop the infrastructures will go. We work very much also with the maps of the CEDMO and the Union for the Mediterranean. In this case, the Islamic Development Bank is also working on this concept for the connection in the Trans-Maghrebi corridor, which is one of the elements which will also capture a lot of investments there, because at the end, as the previous conference was explaining, it will be a competition, but it will not be enough money to develop everything. So the competition is also about the networks. And in my point of view, the networks will define quite very much the importance of each node, and logistics zone is a node on the network, on the transport network, and this is something that we have to keep in mind. And then we have the Trans-Mediterranean Transport Network, or this Motorways of the Sea network. I put its map from the European Commission, which stands for the development of the connections from the north and the south of the Mediterranean area. And this will be a maritime network. So this is something which will be very much important in this development. So if we go more specifically in the way to develop that, and this is something which is important because we know for experience that many times this is one of the elements which reduce the capacity to take decisions. And I stayed in the session of Tunisia, and I know that for some developments, the definition of which kind of relations you have to establish to develop a logistic area is very important. But the true thing is that we build on the idea of public-private partnerships. This has worked very well in the ports area. In relation to a session of yesterday saying that, in fact, the landlord model is just a step going to a better state, which is the private model, I disagree absolutely. I think that the landlord model, where the state keeps the land, is a very good model to work with. I think that this is very good for the future, that we have strong governments that can keep the land for them. But this public-private partnership seems to be something which can help very much to develop a collaboration between both parts. The logistic sector is an important sector that can be used to finance, build, and operate these logistic zones. And this is the model that we are trying to implement in these simulate companies. Then we'll go through all the different elements, the analysis of these elements for simulation. One is location. Then we have these sub-elements, which are industry, population, and land. So if you need to have a place, you need to have markets and industry. Then we have the infrastructures, and here we have the networks with the connectivity by road, by rail, by air, and by sea. If you have inland navigation, also, of course. Then the equipments, and this is very much related with the kind of companies that you will have inside. I agree absolutely in this, that this is about this concept of the ecosystem. So you are building something which are supposed to be a complement inside of all the elements that you're going to go through. Then the services for people, for telecommunications, training, space for meetings, energy. And I take this idea from the language that energy will become one of the main elements. Also, the supply of energy can be something at the end very important. And then the infrastructure. So we are supposed to have port logistics, community systems, water management systems, ERP, RFID. Let me put also in this elements the single window, which this session has been so important. If we go a little bit through the location, in my point of view, is one of the main elements to try to define at the beginning. That I took the area of Misrata with the countries which are around, with the population which is involved, with the GPD, which is also something related with the capacity of acquisition that they have, and I put the distance with the different elements, different countries close. So we have Cairo, Niamey, N'Djamena, Khartoum, Tunis around, and all the different elements and all the people involved on that. And this is more or less 262 million persons. So this is a huge number of inhabitants that should be considered in the definition of all these areas, because at the end is, if we are serving at the network, we need to have people around. This is the schema, because to trying to also define the let's say the foreland, this short, we say the sea hinterland, but the places where we can go in a short distance, and we have this southern Europe that could be served with motorways of the sea or short sea shipping services. And here we have Greece, Italy, and Spain as natural markets of this region. So this is something which can help very much to try to have more possibilities to develop this area. Then we go to the infrastructures, and again we go through the elements related with the networks, and here is where we can identify ports, airports, roads, and railway operations. And this is something that is of high importance, because many times it's not in our hands to have the others' networks connect to our network. So we can try to make our own policy inside our country, but the true thing is that we need to be members of the main networks in the world. So we can have to decide where we will put the efforts to try to build something which can stand and to compete in an international level. These connections and this network will need also the equipments, and this is where we go to the next step. Let me say in the connections, one point, the connectivity, and this is something that has been explained, is very much related also with the shipping connectivity and the connectivity of the port. So each element is related with the other, and this is one of the things that we have to go through: the direct connectivity of airports, the direct connectivity of the ports, and each company, each service which is built there, which help very much to the improvements of the attractiveness of this region. And this is something which is also very, very important. We have to define this core network, which is the main connection. If we take as a model the one developed in Europe, and then we have the comprehensive network connecting all the North Africa, the south coast of the Mediterranean, and this is where we have to try to implement and to define what we want to do, and we have to work together, in my point of view, to make the effort to develop as much as possible this infrastructure. We have the equipments, and this is clear depending on the kind of companies that will work with us. In this case, I put here some different kind of companies on warehouses with temperature control, for dangerous goods, for bulk products, more bulk products, and also the services related with the people working. So what we have in Barcelona in the logistic activity area is also a lot of services related to companies working in the port logistic community, because at the end it's about port logistic communities, and this is something which is quite important. And here is where you need to have all the kind of buildings, also things related with security for people and for vehicles and this kind of stuff. And then I took the information from someone that I follow very close, Mr. Rodriguez, that he's publishing this geography of transport systems, and he make a large definition of the different kind of, let's say, activities that you can develop in these areas. So you have this inbound cross-dock, you have sortation centers with sometimes semi-automate sortation system chains, this local freight station, fulfillment centers, delivery stations, and fast delivery hubs, among others. And this is something which is quite important, because in the evolution of the logistic areas, and someone has already pointed this, the evolution of the shipping lines and the operators is a vertical integration, and sometimes now they're discovering that they have also the logistic zones close to the cities. So some of the areas in the logistic zones are becoming distribution centers, which was not this way before. So things are changing very much, and all the transactions which are supposed to be done in this kind of facilities are also under an evolution quite interesting, because more and more the differentiation between what is logistics, what is production, is more difficult to identify, because there is a lot of transactions which are done in the logistic chain. So this put us in a space which is quite difficult. No one wants to have logistic industrial zones sometimes, but the logistics are sometimes small industrial zones for some kitting, light assembly, technical services. So at the end, you have elements which are mixed in each side. But the true thing is, and I agree about this ecosystem, you have to define very well which kind of people you want inside. And in fact, in Barcelona, we also have a requirement, which is a certain percentage of activity related with the port, because sometimes, as I said, if it's this close to the city, you have the danger to be cannibalized by companies working just land. And this is something which can be also quite dangerous. Then you have the connections, and this is something that you have.
2 minutes, please.
Yes, to define and to clarify which way you have. The true thing is the railway corridors are very important. The air corridors becomes also very important for the competitiveness of a port logistic community, because there is a market related with that, and it's quite the same for the same operators. So that means that you need to do that. And this will also define what you are going to do. In the infrastructures, you have go through that. The true thing is that you need the connectivity, the networks, you need the open data exchange, integrate payments, cloud services, blockchain, all the new elements were single window. And this is something that everybody is developing. The port community systems, for sure, is quite involved on that. And for the transactions, you need a lot of information which comes from these infrastructures to give visibility and to all the, and also to control the quality of the operations. It's very difficult to build quality if you don't have the information, add good information, and this is something that you have to regulate. So you can see here a little bit what we are developing. We are developing all these simulate companies. We have almost everything. We are developing all the different actors. And the true thing is that the idea is to try to say, okay, what these different aspects interact with the logistics zone. And I took the challenge to say, okay, let me give some weight to each element. I say, okay, at the end, more or less, infrastructures 5%, services 5%, equipment 20%, infrastructure 20%, location 50%. The true things at the end is that we know the global added value of the logistics zone. But the point is, what is more important and which weight we have to give to each thing. The true thing is, if your location is not good, in my opinion, it's very difficult to have something. This is, you need the location, you need the industry, you need the people. You cannot improvise that. This is something which you need to have there. And from that point, you can start to build the other things. Okay. If we go more deeply on what is each element, I give a certain weight to each element. The true thing is, this is to try to start to make models which can be live, in the sense that we can play with the different elements to see how something can change. Maybe someone can say that this is completely crazy. Probably yes, I don't know. But the true thing is, we have to try to go closer to these kind of models to try to simulate and to understand what's going on. At the end, the industry can be at 20%, the population at 20%, the land just the 10%. And some of the other people acting on that has already explained. Land is not the more important thing, because the important thing is all the other things. For the Port Virtual Lab that we have developed, we have the Port of Misurata, let me say, and in a East Med service, which goes around the East Mediterranean area. We would like very much, and we dream to have a training center from Libya working with us. We will try to contact with the responsibles of the free zone of Misurata and the port of Misurata to try to involve them, trying to develop training activities in cooperation with the Arab Academy and the Port Training Institute, to try to keep this relation for more time. And that's all I wanted to explain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edward, for your interesting presentation, valuable information. Please stay with us for the discussion session
Yes,
at the end of the session. Thank you. Our second speaker is Professor Carolina Liz. Professor Carolina has a PhD in social science. Her research area is crisis management, humanitarian aid, and green logistics. Also, she is the Vice Dean of the Faculty of Logistics and Transport at the International University of Logistics and Transport in Wrocław, Poland. Professor Carolina will speak about the potential of Polish ports and the challenges and opportunities for the future. Professor, please.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the introduction. I hope you can see my presentation and you can hear me well.
Yes, but please put it in the presentation view.
Of course. Wait a second.
Bottom right. Bottom right.
Okay, now it's good?
Great, thank you. Please
Okay, so once again, good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the conference for the opportunity to present my paper online. I would especially like to thank Ms. Nagva, who helped me in everything, and thanks to her, I can give my speech today and I can participate in the conference. It's my great honor to be part of the first international conference for North Africa, ports and free zones. I would like to present to you a topic about the potential of Polish ports and the challenges and opportunities for the future. I will start my presentation by saying a few introductory words about seaports in Poland. Then I will present you the changes taking place in seaports and discuss the structure of transshipment in the main seaports in Poland in 2022. I would also like to present environmental activities in the main seaports and future plans related to the development of seaports in Poland. So let's start about saying a few words about seaports in Poland. Seaports are strategic points of the transport and trade for every coastal country. They are an extremely important part of forwarding and constitute fundamental elements of the national economy. I would like to present you the most important ports in Poland, their capabilities, opportunities, and challenges that they have to face. In Poland, we have 29 small seaports and 4 seaports that have the great impact on the national economy and sea freight forwarding. These main ports are the ports in Gdynia, Gdańsk, Szczecin, and Świnoujście. In recent years, they have recorded great development and significant achievements in good handling. The port of Gdańsk is one of the largest ports in the Baltic Sea. The largest part of cargo handling here is taken up by liquid fuels. It also handles reloading of passenger cars, citrus fruits, and fertilizers. The studied seaports are located in 2 metropolitan areas, Gdańsk and Szczecin. As ports of fundamental importance, they are managed by state-owned enterprises, and these ports are connected to the Trans-European Transported Network that Professor Edward Rhodes mentioned. They are connected by corridors 6 and 12 and the rail freight corridor number 5. Ports of Gdańsk and Gdynia are located in the central part of southern Baltic coast on the Gulf of Gdańsk. Port of Gdańsk is the largest container hub in the Baltic Sea and the largest Polish logistical node. Szczecin and Świnoujście form Poland's most western port complex. Location of this complex places it on the shortest sea road connecting Scandinavia, Baltic countries, and Russia with southern and western Europe. The Szczecin and Świnoujście ports facilities cover western Poland, Berlin and Brandenburg, and the Czech Republic, while the Gdańsk and Gdynia seaports cover the whole of Poland, eastern Czech Republic, Slovakia, and western Ukraine. All studied ports, apart from Szczecin, are available for ships with a draft of more than 10 meters, including the largest vessels entering the Baltic Sea with a draft of up to 15 meters. All 4 ports have intermodal terminals, including container terminals, whose importance in global transport chains is constantly growing. The ports of Gdańsk and Gdynia have large container terminals and extensive logistical facilities, which are lacking in Szczecin and Świnoujście. What are the changes occurring in the seaports in Poland, the main 4 seaports? In 2022, Polish ports handled a total of 133.2 million tons of cargo, which means an increase of almost 18% compared to previous year 2021. All analyzed ports recorded an increase in transshipment. What are the reasons? The aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine in February 2022 resulted in changes in the structure of transshipment. Bulk cargo began to dominate over general cargo. Due to applicable sections package, Russian coal, which was previously mostly imported by rail, was replaced by coal imported from overseas destinations, such as Australia, South Africa, and Colombia, which significantly influenced the increase in port transshipments. Due to these measures taken to oppose support for the aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine, from August 10, 2022, there is a ban on the import of coal from Russia through the European Union. There has been a clear diversification of supplies in Poland. Russian coal that I mentioned previously imported to Poland by rail was replaced with coal from overseas, which resulted in an increase in transshipment imports. In addition to the increase in turnover in the coal, ports also recorded increases in the transshipments of ores and liquid fuels. The greatest growth was recorded by the port of Gdańsk, which in 2022 moved up to the second position in the Baltic Sea, overtaking the Russian port of Primorsk. The record result of the port is mainly due to increased transshipment of coal and liquid fuels. Moreover, increases were recorded in other cargo groups, excluding other bulk cargo and general cargo. Let's see for the structure of transshipment in these four ports. Ports recorded an impressive increase in coal transshipment. In 2022, the ports handled a total of almost 21 million tons of coal, which was 135% higher compared to 2021. Increased coal transshipments in Polish ports are related to increased imports of this raw material from directions other than Russia. Ports also recorded a large percentage increase in wood handling. All analyzed ports collectively increased the turnover of this cargo by more than 170%. According to the statement of the State Forest, this increase is largely related to the handling of wood from Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and Scandinavia. Wood from these directions arrives in Polish ports, from where the raw material is exported directly to China. In 2022, ore transshipments in the three largest Polish ports increased by almost 25%. The increase in Szczecin-Świnoujście was influenced by the transshipment of Ukrainian ore. At the end of May 2022, the port of Świnoujście transshipped nearly 30,000 tons of iron ore from Ukraine. What are the environmental activities of the major seaports? All ports pursued a policy of protecting the Baltic Sea area against pollution from ships and from land-based sources, in line with the Helsinki Convention, recommendations of the Helsinki Commission, and the International MARPOL Convention. The activities of these ports were carried out in accordance with the environmental protection regulations of national and European Union law, and in accordance with the environmental protection permits held. These pro-ecological activities of the ports are confirmed by many obtained ISO certificates in the field of implementing the environmental management system. The ports carried out environmental monitoring, including air pollution measurements, tests of the cleanliness and quality of port waters, and measurements of noise emissions. The ship waste collection system was also improved. In line with the concept of green ports, actions were taken in Poland towards energy transformation, including the development of offshore wind energy, which I will explain in the next slides. So what are the plans for the future in Poland? In the development program for Polish seaports until 2030, the main priorities are expansion of port infrastructure, as well as infrastructure providing access to ports from the sea, Adaptation of port infrastructure to the hanging cargo structure and expansion of other economic functions. Connecting ports with other participants of transport chains by developing infrastructure for access to seaports from the land sea. Also, digitalization of Polish seaports, ensuring protection for port traffic participants, and taking into account environmental requirements in port activities. The most important challenge facing Polish seaports is to adapt the port infrastructure and the infrastructure for access to seaports from the sea in order to handle larger ships. I would like to present you two investments that are at the advanced stage of development. The first one is the construction of Polish offshore wind farms in the Baltic Sea. The Baltic offshore wind farms will be developed in the Baltic Sea offshore Poland. The development will include 3 wind farms, namely Baltic 1, Baltic 2, and Baltic 3, with a combined installed capacity of 3 gigawatts. The Baltic 1 project will be located on the border of Poland's exclusive economic zone of the Baltic Sea, 81 kilometers off the coast. The Baltic 2 and 3 wind farms will be developed in the southwestern part of the Baltic Sea and within Poland's exclusive economic zone. And the second planned investment is the construction of deep water container terminal. This deep water container terminal in Świnoujście is to accommodate the largest container ships that can enter the Baltic Sea. Its aim is to consolidate the position of Polish ports in the Baltic Sea basin and make them key hubs of global supply chains for Central and Eastern Europe. A deep water container terminal in the outer harbor east of the eastern breakwater of the LNG terminal. The port and container storage area will be located on a pier. The deepwater container terminal will accommodate the largest vessels that can enter the Baltic Sea. It will allow the simultaneously handling of 2 vessels of 400 meters and 1 up to 200 meters in length.
Professor, 2 minutes, please.
I'm going into the conclusions from my presentation. So Polish ports indicate continuous improvement of the competitive position in the country, the Baltic Sea and Europe as their goals and priorities. Seaports are undergoing numerous investments aimed at increasing transshipment capacity, modernizing infrastructure, and improving operational efficiency. Ports indicate the need to implement new technologies, provide modern and failure-free infrastructure, use innovative, automated, and digitalized solutions, and simplify administrative formalities. Another important area of improvement is to development in the area of digitalization and automation, as well as adapting technologies and services to the requirements of climate and environmental protection. So thank you very much for your attention. And once again, I would like to thank the conference organizing committee for the opportunity to deliver my presentation online. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Carolina, for the perfect 15 minutes.
And, I tried.
Well, that's a very important aspect that I think it was the first to introduce the geopolitical aspects and how they can influence port operation and free zone operation. I think the discussion will address this. Before we proceed to the third speaker, may I remind you that we are going to start the closing session immediately after the session. And the speakers, please remain with us, because there will be also a recognition for the participants as well as the speakers. Now, for our last speaker, Miss Sylvia Gambao. She's a lawyer with a master's degree in environmental law and development and specialized in sustainable administration. Well, she's currently a partner and consultant in Proxitronics and in the area of sustainable development, environment compliance, ESG, and radiation protection. Ms. Sylvia has 10 years of experience as a consultant for APM terminals and Mercer Group in the New Moines Container Terminal in Costa Rica. And she was the head of sustainability at the APM terminal. So I'm sure that we are going to enjoy her speech, especially that she's also a university professor for environmental law, sustainable development, and related topics. Her speech will be the impact of free zones and modern container terminal on sustainable development, a case study about Costa Rica. Ms. Sylvia, please.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So I will be short and sweet with my presentation and hoping to give you the knowledge that we have gotten from the projects in Costa Rica for the last decades and how you can use this for your projects here also. So first of all, I will talk about the Costa Rica free zones evolutions. So you might not know where Costa Rica is. We're north of Panama, so very close to the Panama Canal. And in the early 60s, we were only exporting fruit and coffee to Europe and to other countries that were our partners. So at that time, the visionary politicians decided this is the agriculture era that we cannot keep up for the rest of our time as a country. So what are we going to do with this economic model that we have that is not going to work anymore? So they decided in the 60s that they would create the Center for Promotion of Exports and Investments, and they started inviting companies to come and do business with us, start their production there. This was in the early 60s. So it's been more than 60 years of developing our model of what we have now. In 1981, the first free zone that was government run was created. And then in 1985, we started to create free zones that were run privately. Also in 1990, we had the official free zone regime law, and this allowed the creation of multiple manufacturing, services, and industrial parks all around the country. So our basic model is that they are exonerated from taxes as long as they are exporting services or goods. And then in 2010, we complied with the World Trade Organization standard procedures, and we keep doing that because we have high standards of the companies that are investors in our country. And then in 2021, we had at least 13 free zones operating in our country and more than 300 multinational companies that are already doing business there. Something that's important is we started with simple manufacturing of goods. So the first product to ever be produced was a hair dryer. So that was in the 60s. And now we're making pharmaceutical products, medical devices, technology, microchips. And so we have grown in those 60 years. We have advanced a lot, also as have done our working population. This was in the 90s. So in the 90s, we started to attract more complex and sophisticated companies that would do business. Something important there is that the companies that came at the beginning, they came for the tax breaks. And they stayed because of the political stability and the quality of the labor force. So this is the reason why they decided to stay and continue investing and continue growing. So we started with simple companies that were just producing consumer goods for exporting, And now we have companies like Baxter, Boston Scientific, Magan Medical, Roche, all the nice brands, at least in our side of the world, we have them present doing business in our free zones and exporting. Okay, something important that I want to also say from the other presentations is that we also had tourism. This is a very important thing we had, and something that people that are doing business in our country like is that they feel at home and they feel welcome and they feel it's easy to work with our employees. So it's important to take that in consideration, because if the CEOs and general managers and investors feel that they can do business because they feel at home, they will normally like to stay and invest more, and they will compromise and commit with the people and do business in a long term, and this is very important. Also, in 2021, we were already starting the digital era, which it was spoken about before. But in 2021, with COVID, we were very worried about our business model because we didn't know what would happen with the pandemic. And we started receiving a lot of digital nomads. And this increased our potential of doing business in a sector that we were not doing. So we started receiving a lot of people from countries that they were used to living in small apartments and doing designing for robotics and things like that. They came to our country to live at the touristic areas, in farms, at the beach, or near the mountains, and they set up their companies there. So now we have startups of very important companies that are starting to do high quality investment in technology also. So that's a new thing for us also. Now going into the container terminal. So as you can see, from the 60s, we started building our free zone model, and we did nothing with our ports. So 10 years ago, more or less, it was a request from all these important companies that were doing business in our country that we had to do something with our port if we wanted them to continue doing business there, because we had not updated or renovated our port since 30 years ago. So the authorities decided it was a too ambitious project to do. They could not do alone, and they set out a concession, so a landlord type of concession. And they invited companies from all over the world. We were fortunate to receive more than 20 proposals from consortia and companies all around the world. And it was a very ambitious project because it was a project to design, finance, obtain permits, operate, and maintain during 30 years a terminal. So normally you have companies that can build, or you have companies that finance, or you have companies that design. But getting one sole company being able to do all of this was complicated. So in the end, we had 3 companies that were willing to do that. And in the end, we had APM Terminals with an investment from Muller-Maersk to do this project. Something important also, we were exporting fruit and byproducts of fruit. So our agricultural frontier is very small. So we are not wasting any of the fruit that we produce. We are specializing. So now we have high-end coffee that is sold in Japan markets, in Russia, until recently, not anymore. Also in Europe, we have organic pineapple. So we are turning our production of normal pineapple to organic pineapple, which sells for a lot more. You might have seen some pink pineapples that recently are being sold also in the markets. They sell for 3 or 4 times the regular prices. And this is why the container terminal also manages a lot of reefers. It's specialized in all these type of products. Just for the ones that like technical information, this is a 80-hectare terminal, up to 16 meters deep. Right now it's 14, but it can go up to 16. And it can manage 2.5 million TEUs at the end of the 30 years. Right now we have 1.2 that is being managed. And it's one of the 5 phases of a master plan that includes oil, and other types of terminals. For the moment, the government has just decided to go ahead with the container terminal, which was the priority for the type of business model that we handle as a country. Okay, so what are the things the new port infrastructure has achieved? So as we were talking before, and I'm not going to go too deep into the benefits, but we have reduced the vessel stay at port in 30%. And what does this mean? That we're receiving the benefits also for the environment. Cargo is getting in and out of the country faster, and reduced average truck turn times to 22 minutes. Before it was up to 2 hours. So you can imagine the cost and the delays and everything that it had an impact on in the country. It has also been more efficient for customers in reducing their CO2 emissions. As you know, this is an important thing. We have installed new scanners, which are currently running and operating, which have improved security, enforceability of laws, and also cargo management for our clients. Some of the challenges we'll still have to resolve are road infrastructure. We had an old railway which is not operating anymore, so we have all the trucks going on the road with the normal vehicles, which is a complete disaster, and there's still not a solid project to solve this. There's a road that is being built to make it larger, but not really solving the problem. And then the local free zones and infrastructure potential. So the idea of building the port is also attracting more free zones and companies to be working right next to the port. And what has happened, as you have heard before, is that differently from the companies that are established in the Central Valley, the ones that are next to the port don't have all the conditions to invest. So as they were saying before, it's not having just a plot of land which you can offer. You need to have security. You need to have high electricity. You need to have water. You need to have employees. You need to have all the necessary characteristics for a company to be able to invest. And this is something that is not present yet, although there are free zones. We are still lacking a big portion of what is needed for those rings of development to continue growing next to the port. And some of the high-end customers like Intel or Baxter or Roche, they don't care to bring their products from the port to the Central Valley. But others that have more intensive building, they need to have a proximity to the port. And yet we have not achieved that. Okay, so this is, as you can see, Costa Rica is a very small country. We have on one side the Caribbean and on the other side the Pacific. We're bordering south with the Panama Canal, so we have a very strategic position. And this is the areas where we have free zones and other services. I'll give you the presentation afterwards, so you can ask it from Najwa if you want to know more about where they are and what they are doing. One important thing of the real impacts of the terminal to of a modern port in the free zones is that for the companies that are producing high-end products in the Central Valley, they were able to almost double their production. Why? Because inefficiency in ports meant that they were dedicating a lot of their time and efforts and budget into having the necessary materials to be able to produce. Now with the efficiency of what we have, they are able to take those resources, those warehouses, and turn it into production. So some of them have doubled with the same budget. They didn't change anything. They have the same infrastructure and the same budget. They have hired more people. They did hire more people, and they are producing more with the same they had before. So this is something important. Also with products like pineapple and coffee, we're able to reach more markets through the efficiency of the port. So pineapple has a shelf life of only 8 days in the maximum. So if you are using the efficiencies of the port, you're able to use those 8 days wisely and have those pineapple in the shelf life in other countries faster. So we're being able to reach other markets that pay more for our products and buy products like juice and other things. So we already mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals. If you don't know them, there's a website that has them, the United States and the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. And it's important because if you don't know which areas to start prioritizing in sustainability, this will give you a clear view of where to go and what to prioritize. So some things that we did in the project in the Moín container terminal, and I'm not going to refer to all of them. After, if you want to ask questions about some of them, then you can do. But some of the important things that we did is normally companies manage their impacts. That's all they are required to do. So if you have an impact, you manage it and check, you're done. But there is a lot of money being spent in budgets and efforts in managing those impacts. So why not make it more than management of impacts? Make it management of risks and make it management of your employees, your community, and making also benefits for your surrounding communities and clients. So I want you to start thinking about how can we emphasize on not only managing our impacts, but also creating environmental and social programs that manage your negative effects. And this is something new we did, and it's really given a very important result in our community and in the international community also. So for example, we were going to produce a lot of jobs for the terminal, and how the community was not ready to be available and to have the capabilities to join those jobs. So what we did was, with a similar institution to the Port Training Institute, not as sophisticated because it was more for people that worked in the terminal, we offered a free course for anybody who wanted to receive it. So that way we trained our clients, our people that were helping with the terminal. We helped community, everyone that wanted to be trained, they could go to that course. And we also guaranteed that we had a basis and a level for anybody we wanted to choose to be able to hire. So we gave also, that gave us a lot of, that leveled up the safety and security, because a lot of people were not ready to do safe operations in a modern terminal or to manage environmental friendly concepts within doing business. So we were able to do this, and we leveraged community up also. Also with working with local business, they wanted to sell things to us, but they had no idea how to do it. So we created programs to train business on how to do business with us. And then they were able to know how to write a proposal, know how to get funding, know what insurance they were required to get. And we collaborated with banks that allowed them to get funding to be able to sell to us. So these are things that we created that had a good impact on community. And then, well, you have the rest of the other 17 topics that respond to the SDGs. And if you have questions, here I am. So shukran, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sylvia, for this nice presentation, please. Would you please bring back the two other speakers online so that we can start our Q&A session? So we enjoyed the three presentations from the three distinguished speakers in different aspects, and with three different experiences from all over the world. Okay, so Edward is here, and Carolina's there, and Carolina is there. Okay, now we are ready. Please, questions from the audience. Captain Yas.
Thank you. Captain Yas Leclerc from Canada. A question is for Mr. Rhodes. In one slide of your presentation, you talked about the PPP. And I know, we have different projects. We saw the presentation from Miss Carolina, also from the project in Costa Rica. And I travel quite a bit. I'm involved in a lot of projects, and the core of the big challenge is the financing of this kind of project. Then my question for Mr. Rhodes is, from your experience, how these PPP are working, especially North and West Africa, the whole African continent, because I know this is a big challenge. You know, there are a lot of potential, but the financing is usually a big issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say that it's about financing, but not just about financing. It's very much, when you have a PPT, first thing is who is the majority is public, is private, but because this can shape very much the way you will manage the facility in the day-to-day. And this is something that you have to keep in mind, because you can find the money, but it's not always about money. And let me give you an example. The European Investment Bank has developed a huge project to develop logistic zones in the South Mediterranean. I think that they haven't achieved to build one of these ones, and they were putting the money. So it's not about money many times. It's about how to manage and how to agree with the people there to manage this kind of facilities. If you have a good structure, if you have the commitment of the different actors in the port logistic community, and if you have the space and the means, you will find the money. This is my opinion of the experience of time. We have worked with different governments to try to define and to develop logistic zones. And at the end, you have the Islamic Development Bank, you have the bodies from the World Bank. You can find the money. If the project is good, is in the right place, is in the, I mean, and this is my experience. So, but the point is that if you put it on the PPT, you have the vision also of the private companies and the management of the private companies many times. And this is what makes very much difference to develop in time these kind of facilities, which are, as you have already saw with all the presentations, under a strong transformation period. So I think that the two visions are to go together. You need to improve the quality of the people working in the public side, and you need to have private companies with the vision of that they are also contributing to develop social activity in the area. So both worlds, in my point of view, has to work together to have a successful operation.
Thank you. Thank you. Please.
نعم، شكرا لمنح فرصة التداخل. وطالما أن نحن في إطار الجلسة المعنونة بتحديات مستقبل المناطق الحرة، أسأل هنا ما هي توقعات المستقبلية للمناطق الحرة في ظل وجود وتزايد التكتلات الاقتصادية العالمية التي تجاوزت حدود الدول وانتقلت إلى حدود القارات؟ وأخص هنا تحديدا واللي ممكن تمسنا نحن كمنطقة حرة بمصراتها، وجود المنطقة الحرة القارية الأفريقية، والتي تضم الآن حتى هذا اليوم حوالي 42 دولة أفريقية من دول الاتحاد الأفريقي من أصل 52 دولة أفريقية. هذه المنطقة اللي قدرت لجنة الأمم المتحدة الاقتصادية بأنها ستعزز التجارة بين البلدان الأفريقية بنسبة تزيد عن 52%. هناك بعض الآراء تقول أن تضاؤل دور المناطق الحرة سيتضاءل لحساب هذه التكتلات الاقتصادية، يعني بمعنى أن ربما لا تستطيع المناطق الحرة مستقبلا مواجهة المزايا والحوافز والتسهيلات التفضيلية التي تمنحها التكتلات الاقتصادية زي ما حكينا العابرة الآن للقارات. فيا ريت المتحدثين أو غيرهم ينورونا في هذا الجانب.
Thank you very much. I'll just give a moment for the speakers to digest the translation, and then I need a short reply from each one of you, or a short comment if you would like to contribute. Sylvia.
Thank you. So what we have done in Costa Rica and in generally in Central America with other countries that have followed our economic model is that we have very clear regulations, and the companies that are investing there have legal security. So they know that what is written in the law will be respected, and there are no sudden changes as to what is applicable to them. And there are no additional requirements as to how to do business in the country. And there is a lot of agencies from the government that are helping them with a sole window to be able to export or to be able to do authorizations before the government. And this has worked very well for us, but it has to be a decision from the government. And if you're involving more than one government, then from the governments. And that's not necessarily easy. And to maintain the legal stability is very important for the companies to make a decision to invest.
Thank you. Carolina or Edward, you would like to contribute?
I can contribute if Carolina is thinking something very short. Let me put you an example of the last two profiles of company that has joined the logistics area in Barcelona. One is Merckx with 2 big warehouses to integrate with their own operations. And the second one is a joint venture between Busan Port in Korea and the Barcelona Port Authority. So this is the profile of the companies that are working there. This is the future. More and more, you build on more strong logistic chains, door to door, let's put it. Now port to port, but with the port, even the port authorities involved in the operation. This is completely new. Never before something like this was going on. Little bit maybe in Tangermet. In Tangermet is an example of something that is quite close to that, very related with the automobile industry. So that means this is the future and the new shape of logistics zones, probably, and this will go in this way, in my point of view.
Okay, let me add here a personal comment. And this also relates to the discussion that was in the conclusion of the last session. I'm also a strong believer in competition. So it is okay to have this cartel, this union, this group, no problem. The issue is who is going to be able to develop more business opportunities. The future economy and the global economy is going to significantly change, in my personal opinion, and geopolitics and social economics are have significant impact on the future of global trade, global logistics, global shipping, and so on. So I think we will need to revise our regulations, laws, bylaws, and so on, integrate more businesses, more local businesses, create more opportunities. We are not splitting the same pie. We are all working to increase the size of the pie so it even can be sufficient for more participants. So I am with also healthy competition. Okay, one maybe last comment. Carolina would like to contribute.
I guess in Poland and in whole European Union, we have problem like we have a new law, new restrictions, and new goals, but the infrastructure it's not ready for that, and I think the economy is also not ready. So I think it's the opposite problem in European Union because they give us new requirements, but Poland, for sure, it's not ready for changing the economy, or the changes are not so, they are slower than the regulations of European Union goals.
So everyone is thinking about the future and how to manage and deal with it. One last intervention, maybe.
Let me just say something that with your comment, which I agree completely about the competition, and I think that we have to understand again with whom we are competing. So this is one of the main elements. We are not competing with the same competitors that we had before. This is a new scenario. And absolutely, we are competing with the main strategies around with big players, but we have to include the small ones inside. So we cannot let someone behind.
Very good. So I think by this I can conclude this session and thank all the distinguished speakers who were with us. And I hope you all benefited. And by this also, I conclude the last session and I hand over the session presidency to the closing session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Eduardo. Thank you.